Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
3 defeats on the bounce for the Blues and relegation is all but certain now. Where do we go from here? We look back on the losses against Charlton, Barnsley and Shrewsbury and contemplate whether United will win again this season. Or not. I practically just gave up during that intro, mate, because I was like, oh, what more do you say? It's not much fun being a Carlisle fan right now, is it, in terms of the on-the-pitch stuff, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it's interesting us doing this episode like sort of as 3 reviews in one, because I think when we do one review, we're like, oh, you know, there are these little issues and we can just sort it out for the next game, but then you look at the bigger picture and you see 3 reviews, 3 defeats, it's just depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's obviously, just to explain, obviously we were supposed to do a preview ahead of the game this weekend, but unfortunately none of us were available to record. We're all busy, so we decided we'd do a 3-game review in one go on the Sunday instead. And it's probably fair to say, as we'll touch on in a moment, it was 3 games that progressively got poorer and poorer performances, because the Charlton performance, as we'll say in a minute, was actually all right. Barnsley, just a very good team. Shrewsbury, don't even know where to start with that one. So yeah, I mean, how are you doing, mate? I should have said that first.
Well, I mean, it's just, I think if I had, that age-old question, if you had a time machine, what point in history would you go back to? I'd just go forwards to the end of the season. It's just, it's terrible. It's weird. Like, the club has been in worse states, definitely, but this is the least enjoyable season that I can recall for a long time. Like, when we've been scrapping at the bottom of League Two, there's at least been sort of something to play for, kind of thing. But it's just pointless.
It's mad, really, because I just think of this the other day. We're going down, but actually, I'm not I'm frustrated because the season's been poor and it's coming to a really damp squib at the end. But at the same time, and I stand by this, we'll be in a much better position next season, because recruitment-wise, we're in a much better place in terms of we're going down. We're not scrapping about to pick up players. We're going to be alongside your likes of your Chesterfield probably, and maybe one of your MK Dons or Notts counties, the big dogs who will be going in. Right, we're going to offer the most money to these players. We've not been in that position before, so there's a level of excitement there. And actually, honestly, going down and winning most weeks, and I know some people say, "Oh, there's no guarantee of that." Yeah, of course there isn't any guarantee of that, but it's much more likely. I think it's more enjoyable than scrapping about at the bottom of League One, to be honest.
Yeah, although, 2 clubs at the high end of that League Two budget table have always been Salford and Bradford. They haven't always managed it, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure Bradford are that much these days. I mean, that's the reason they had to sell Harry Lewis in the end, wasn't it? Because they were struggling a bit in terms of money. They needed to get some cash in and things like that. So, you're right, there's no guarantee of it, but I think... if you've got a better base, and I think we've got a better base than the likes of Salford, especially with the fan base behind us, and I know Bradford have got the big fan base, yes, I get that, but I'm not sure Bradford's recruitment's been that great. Argument ours hasn't this last summer, so yeah, you're trying to talk me out of it, Mike. Well done.
I would argue, and this is somewhat controversial, that our recruitment in January was actually good. Man for man, I think the players have improved us, but I think the issue for us is just confidence. I think players' confidence is just plummeted, and maybe we miss Moxon more than people think. We certainly miss Callum Guy a hell of a lot more than
Callum Guy's the big one we've missed, and as soon as he came out, Moxon didn't look as good a player. Yeah, I think we totally underappreciate how important he was, and I know a few people have said, "Oh well, McGeoch's done the last few games," and he's done all right, to be fair. But I don't think he's the same player as Guy. He's not as physical. He's not going to get as stuck in as much as Callum Guy would. Callum Guy, he'd pick up a knock pretty much every game he played in, but he'd play through it, wouldn't he? He'd play through the pain a lot, and obviously you can't play through an ACL. That's the harsh reality of it. But it's interesting to see what comes of that. Right, before we get into it, just a reminder, of course, that the I was going to say actually today, so we're going to review those 3 games. We're not going to do a preview for the Stevenage game. That'll come later in the week. And what we're going to do listener questions. So we'll put a call out at the start of the week for your listener questions ahead of the weekend. It should be quite an interesting one, really, because I think there might be a few questions on particularly hot topics, I think it's fair to say. We won't do a full X-Blues roundup, but we will talk about one little bit of X-Blues news, because I think everyone wants to talk about that one. That'll come towards the end. Well, that's how we'll end on a positive note, won't we, Mike? We'll end up with that at the very, very end. So, So there you go. Right, just a reminder, obviously this season, the podcast has been sponsored by the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch. Huge thank you for their brilliant support all season. It's been really, really appreciated in terms of helping us with our hosting costs. The London branch do a lot of great stuff for the club in terms of fundraising. I know they're actually, I think they're doing like a survey of their members about the future of the London branch and what people want to see from it in the future. So if you're a member, get involved with that. If you're not, sign up and get involved. You don't have to live in the southeast of London. You can live anywhere. I'm not going to say whether the countries because we're not going to play the bingo today. I'm in a bad mood after that. Not yesterday. But yeah, anywhere you live in the world, you can join the London branch. Go to the website carlisle.londonbranch.org, or you can grab them at one of the away games. I'm sure they'll be at the Peterborough game, I'd imagine, and I can't remember what other ones we've got left. Peterborough, Cheltenham on a Tuesday night, maybe not too many there, and Derby. I think is that it? Derby. Is that all we've got left? Yeah, Derby.
I don't even know. Yeah.
I just want it to end now. I just want it to end. Speaking of, let's just get into it then. Let's start with the first one, which I think was probably the most positive of the 3 performances. Charlton Athletic 3, Carlisle United 2. This was like the 5th game. I think the Barnsley game, wasn't it? After this was the 5th game in a row where we took the lead in a game, which we really struggled with. But we took the lead in this one, and for whatever reason, just can't hold on to it again. And I look back at this one, Mike, and I think to myself, if we got a 2-2 draw out of this, I think most people look back and say that's actually a really good performance. That's more of what we want to see. And again, it's an individual mistake that costs us at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you say that cost us at the end, but I think the first goal, I'm not going to attribute blame to anyone because it took a spawny deflection and it was unlucky, and there's not really a lot you can do. But the second goal, I think Lavelle let his man go inside of him way too easily. And the third goal, I mean, it's weird. Like at the time, like people were saying, "Oh, was it Lavelle's fault? Was it Lewis's fault?" It's not even a debate for me. Like it's an absolute hospital ball back to Lewis, and like just if you're going to shank it out for a corner, shank it out for a corner. Yeah. Don't risk a back pass like that when the striker's approaching.
Yeah, it's sort of like Alfie May as well. Like one of the top. Is he? I think he's the top scorer in the division or something like that. Like, he's very, very up at the top. Like, don't do that when he's about. It makes no sense. It's stupid. And I feel like the second one, I get you on that one as well. But I think the second one was a little bit spawny as well. Because if you watch, he goes to sort of hit it or control it, and he completely messes it up. But it sits up really nicely. He's like, "Thank you very much. I'll fire it into the roof of the net." He did not intend that first touch. If you watch it back, that sums up our luck really. If our player did that, he'd bobble out and go for a goal kick probably. But yeah, it was all around just quite frustrating. Team news wise ahead of this one, the big news was Josh Feller missing out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So an injury that looks like it's going to end his season. We don't know the full details yet, but when I say end his season, it has me a little bit worried. Like, this is not going to be another serious one, is it? I mean, I really, really hope not.
Well, the thing with me, because initially it was like sort of maybe a week or two, and then it's end of the season, and this isn't the first time this has happened this season. We've heard it with quite a few players at the. I mean, JJ Coyote's been about a week away from,
that's a write-off
all season.
There's no point of even asking about that anymore. He's not coming back this season. Let's just accept that. He's. I do wonder if he. It sounds terrible. I don't think he can be bothered, and I don't really blame him. Do you want to really be associated with a team that's going down at the end of the season? Probably not.
Well, yeah.
Which is it's not great, but
yeah, it's been happening all season where players were told that they're a week or so away, and then they have a setback, and then this, and it's bizarre. I can't remember it happening like this in any other season. It's bizarre. Yeah,
it's just a really, really strange one, isn't it? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think basically the only change was McGeoch coming in for Villa. What did you make of McGeoch's performance in this game? I thought he was pretty solid, and like it's one of those ones you look and think, could he have been involved a bit sooner in the season? Because he's been fit for a while.
Yeah, I think he could have been. And yeah, I think he had a good game. And my sort of thoughts immediately after the game were that midfield three of Neil, McGeek, and Charters, they're all contracted to be with us next season. So maybe stick with that, for the rest of the season and, go with that going into next season. But obviously that doesn't happen because Charters got dropped yesterday. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. But yeah, I think McGeek, he just always makes himself available. Quite often, the ball ends up with the wing backs, and they end up quite isolated, and they kind of have to. They're kind of pushed into a corner where they kind of have to try and beat their man and get a crossing. But McGeek just always offers himself inside as that option. And he's got very good awareness. He's one of them players that he looks like he's got a lot of time on the ball, but that takes some doing to do that, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think he's a very clever player, and yeah, he should have been playing a lot more this season, definitely.
Yeah, I do wonder if the physical side he struggles a little bit with it. He just, like I said, unfavourably, I'm comparing him to Callum Guy here. For me, like, he's probably our best midfielder, to be fair. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Let's talk about the goals then. United's opening goal. Initially, a ball in from Charters on the corner, headed straight back out to him. Takes a touch, sends in a low sort of bouncing, sort of scuffed ball almost, doesn't he? And Armstrong just swings a leg out. He just pokes a leg out and it's heading towards the top corner. The keeper gets a hand to it. I think it's so high and so unexpected, he just can't get a decent hand to it, and it's in the back of the net. Yeah,
it was a cracking finish, wasn't it? And, again, that takes some doing, sort of getting that connection on it, because you don't know if another man's going to get a toe on that ball. I think it actually came off Lavelle before it reached Armstrong.
You're not. Oh wait. You're not giving Lavelle an assist for that on your.
No, genuinely, all the sort of official channels that credit players with goals and assists credited Lavelle with an assist for that.
Are you sure? Hang on, let me get this thing up. Hang on. You are kidding me. For God's sake, he's not getting that. Not in a million years am I giving him that. Ridiculous.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't shoot the messenger.
I know. I thought it was one of your ridiculous. I don't know how the way you do assists is mad.
Well, no, I credited Armstrong with an assist for Charter's goal because I've always believed that if you get fouled for a penalty, that's an assist.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, so that's the opening goal, and at that point you think, okay, we're doing all right here. We're causing them a few problems on the break. We're not playing too badly. When we actually, I think we were. To be honest, the opening 15-20 minutes, we were probably having more of the ball than them. I felt like we were really on top. And then came the equaliser, and as you say, in fact, no, before we mention the equaliser, I can't remember if this was before the equaliser or was after. Mention the Harry Lewis save.
Oh, what
from the
save.
header. So a corner comes back, I think cleared back out to May, possibly, I think it was, and he puts the ball to the far post, and I can't remember who got the header on it, but he heads it down, and I mean, it's an unbelievable save, not just because he gets the hand to it, but he pushes it just around the post and just out of reach of, I think it was Daniel Canoe, wasn't he? He was coming in at the far post. Unbelievable save, and that's the keeper we've signed. That's the keeper we're like, okay, we're actually seeing the keeper we expected here now with a save like that, aren't we?
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah. And he had a good game, and it's mad. We conceded 3 goals, and he made a couple of other good saves as well. And
I think one was when it was flagged offside, wasn't it? But it was still a really good save.
But yeah, I think people are on his back, and I think maybe paying 6 figures for him, people expect
more.
This all-saving, all-catching goalkeeper.
But
the team is in, and the amount of pressure that any goalkeeper is put under, they're going to concede goals, sadly.
I think there's some expectation if we stuck Gabe Breeze in it would all be fine. I think what you do, you just kill Gabe Breeze' confidence.
Yeah.
That's all you did do if you put him in. It's just ridiculous. So, the equaliser, as you mentioned there, I think it was, I can't remember, was it Canoe maybe that turned Mellish a little bit easily, gets away, and he hits a shot and he completely mishits it. And it deflects straight to May. It's like, and to be fair, was it Huntington or Lavelle on May? I mean, there's nothing they could have done, really. You couldn't really blame the defender there.
It was Huntington that sort of the big deflection came off, and it was Lavelle that was kind of marking May. But Lavelle's position was fine for the initial shot, but when it took that deflection, It was just unlucky.
And then he also gets away. And when Alfie May gets just inside the box there, he's always going to score, isn't he? At the end of the day, he can hit good finish from him. Into half time at 1-1. At that point, we were all like, we're pretty happy, there, are we? There was no real upset. We're like, that's fine. They were clearly a better side than us. You could tell that watching them, couldn't you? There's some very good players there, Dobson and the likes of that. And then, as you mentioned, like this, as I've mentioned before, their second goal to take the lead. It's frustrating because, like I said, it just a loose touch from him, and it just set it up quite nicely for him to fire him through from there. Lavelle probably should be a little bit tighter on him, to be honest, but there you go. I don't think there's much else to say about that. And then the penalty, and I didn't realise, when I watch it back, it is a blatant penalty. We were a bit confused at first. We're like, is it a handball or something? And then like, oh yeah, Armstrong's been brought down. It's a penalty. It makes sense now. Taylor, I think Armstrong wanted to take it first, didn't he? He grabbed the ball.
No, the vibe I got all along was that they knew it was Charters. Yeah, and what a penalty, by the way. I mean,
oh yeah,
you
so
don't
calm,
save them.
Stepped up, left foot. The keeper goes the right way, but he sits with such power and such like the height of it as well. He just couldn't get to it, and
I think it just clipped the post on the way in as well.
Yeah, it's great penalty. Really pleased with that to see him score as well, because I think there's been a little bit of a was he up to it thing. I think it's a bit harsh. I think it's a real big learning curve for him this season, and I think it's going to do him really good for next season for us in League Two, because he's got the chance to be the main man now that Moxon's gone. So I think I can kind of get maybe why Simmer might take him in and out of the team in these remaining games just to take a little bit of the pressure off him. Hopefully next season we'll see. I hope he's not one of the ones when we're thinking of a clear out we're going to get rid of, because I feel like having local lads in there does make a difference. We saw that last season, so I'd hope he stayed. And then the third goal. I mean, I just don't know what Lavelle's thinking. I just don't. I just boot the bloody thing. That's what he's there for. That's the kind of defender Lavelle is.
Yeah,
he's there to head and kick everything away. I thought, great, just boot it out for a throw-in. No one's going to have a go at that point. We're 2-2 away from home against a team that's paid £1 million for a midfielder in January and 300 grand for a defender. Just do it. And why are you trying? I get we're trying to play a bit more of a passing style because we've got a goalkeeper who's capable of playing out of his feet, and we've seen the benefit of that. But then there's an awareness of knowing what's around you and going, you know what? I haven't actually got the time here. I'm getting rid of it. Let's reset and get ourselves ready. And he plays the back pass, and I think Lewis actually does quite well to force May wide, because if you watch, he nearly ends up going out of play, doesn't he? He just manages to stop himself. So, and at that point, it's kind of like we sort of huffed and puffed a bit, didn't we? The subs came on, didn't really make an impact, if we're being brutally honest. If anything, it killed the game a little bit for us.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-2 loss. Talk about the day out there, Mike. We had a cracking day out there, didn't we?
Oh, I mean, you were absolutely buzzing your head off that you got on the front seats of the top deck of the bus.
Let me tell you about that. Right? Greg Bullman, who listens to this, a regular contributor to 6 Second Review, will 100% agree with this. One of the greatest joys in life is getting on a double-decker bus, going on the top deck, and the front seats are free. Yeah, like everybody, I don't care how old you are, that should be a moment of excitement for you. And we got on the bus. So basically what we did, let's tell the story, shall we? So obviously got the train down from Liverpool. No thanks to Avanti and them cancelling loads of trains on Saturday. So we got the train down, and then we it was the tube across to Embankment.
Yeah,
and we were supposed to be meeting Dan there to get a boat. Dan was already in the queue for the boat and got on the first one he was there, so he ended up on a tiny little boat with no
didn't have a bar on it. Yeah,
we got on a boat, one of the Uber boats, down the river, down to the O2, the old Millennium Dome, and we had a lovely couple of drinks on there, didn't we? It was a nice little drive down. Very exciting when they said, "Oh, we're going to go full speed now down this part of the river." I was like, "Wow, bloody hell." Real kick then, didn't we? No, you know what? It's a lovely way to go to a game. Went to the Spoons at the O2. There was a lovely country festival on, wasn't there?
Yeah.
One of your mates was there, wasn't there? I think you were saying.
Yeah.
We almost bought a cowboy hot for £25, but thought better of it. And then then we got a bus from the bus station by the O2 down to Charlton, and like I said, we got the top deck. It was a nice little thing. Hello to the listener who said hello to me on the bus. Said, "Oh, we recognise that voice. Is that the Bugle?" We were like, yeah, we are. It's like, didn't catch your name. I'm really, really sorry. I think it was there with his daughter, wasn't he? So thank you very much for your very kind comments. Got to the game. You know what? As an away end, I like that away end. I mean, it's good. You get a good view there. There's only one big view obstructing post, which we chose to sat next to, didn't we? So we
it's the
wouldn't be blocked
one
by
pillar in the entire stadium that must be holding the entire ground together.
Well, the thing is, I think that's one of the few stands that remains from the old Valley. Like, because remember in the 80s, in the late 80s, the ground got basically, Charlton had to play at Selhurst Park, didn't they, for quite a few years?
Right.
And I think possibly at the Den at Millwall, maybe, or somewhere. They played at a few grounds because the Valley was just in a complete state of disrepair. It was just, the grass was overgrown. So when they bought the club out and took it over, they cleared it all off and rebuilt the stands. And that's the only stand that actually is the same stand, I think, still. Obviously, they've changed seats and things like that. But yeah, so that one pillar was in the way, but we were sat next to it, so it didn't block our view. And yeah, it was just a nice little day out. I think most fans were generally fairly positive afterwards. There's one guy when I was walking out was banging on about Harry Luce being terrible. And it just baffled me. Like, I totally get it on other games, you might have said that, but that was probably his best game for us. Other than maybe Burn, he made some great saves. Just got to be patient, I think, with these things and just not get too overexcited. And then afterwards, we got a train back into town and went to the Market Porter, which was the London branch recommended pub for this game at Borough Market. We were going to go to the Brewdog at Waterloo to go down the slide, but we ran out of time, didn't we? We got two pints at the Market Porter. And I had a really good crack with some Luton fans there, actually. Top fellas, those two lads, weren't they? We were just talking about it. It must be amazing. Like, he's like, oh yeah, we know there's a chance we're going to go down, but we're enjoying every single game. I think they'd only missed Brentford, I think it was, they said, because it was really tough to get tickets for that one. And he was just saying like how good it was, and how much they enjoyed coming to Carlisle when they've been up in the past. So, really pleased for them because they got a draw that day, didn't they? So it was good stuff. Yeah. And then obviously back over to Euston and the train back, and for once our train back wasn't delayed, was it? So
yeah.
Which was very satisfying indeed. I think we got ourselves our burger. Well, I got a burger. You got 2 meals, didn't you, if I remember rightly?
No, there's no need to fat shame on this podcast. We're struggling. I've got to do what I can to cope with this season, and I don't think there should be any judgment for that.
Comfort eating is not a crime, okay?
Just
remember that. But yeah, no, all round, probably one of the best away days. I think I was talking with Johnny at Shrewsbury yesterday, and he agreed one of the best away days this season. Even though we lost, it was just a good day out. It's like, right, it just makes me more determined that, right, next season, let's get promoted back up and get games like this back. That's all we've got to do. Just use that anger of the fact that we're going down to fuel getting back up there. But there you go. I think we've pretty much covered the Charlton game. I mean, I think, because the thing is, we'll go into a bit more depth on individual players and things like that towards the end. So we'll take a really short break now, and then we'll be back to talk about the Barnsley game.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back after the break to talk about Carlisle United 2, Barnsley 3. 2 3-2 defeats in a row. This one probably not as strong a performance as the Charlton game, I think, Mike. But what I'd say is, I think Barnsley were a much superior team to Charlton, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, again, it's sort of disappointing, and you can maybe see green shoots, as Stephen Presley would say. But at the end of the day, it's points on the board that matter, and we didn't get any.
No, absolutely. It's frustrating, isn't it? Actually, I'm looking at the stats for this game, Mike. And we only had 7 shots to their 24. But only 6 of their shots were on target. And of ours, 7 shots, 5 were on target. So fairly efficient with our shooting against a very good team. But the difference was just the quality, wasn't it, really? That's where it all changed.
Yeah, definitely. But it's one of them for me. I was quite disappointed after the Reading game, and this wasn't the only game that this has happened, where Simo has basically said that the likes of Reading, he's basically bigged them up, making out that they're like Real Madrid, and it's like, if Reading are this like formidable force that we just can't stop, what are teams like Barnsley? What are teams like Peterborough? What are teams like Derby? Like
Lincoln coming up there. I mean, look at the run they're on.
Oh, they're on a ridiculous run.
I'm a bit worried about that Easter Monday game. I'm very worried. I mean, that's probably the game we're going to get relegated if you look at it, actually. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. But no. Yes, I mean, in terms of the team for this one, Simo did make a couple of changes, didn't he? And that was to bring in 2 new wing backs in Emmanuel and Robinson for this one.
It's quite understandable with the Saturday, Tuesday making changes like that.
It's a little bit, then it changes it back for the Charlton game, for the Shrewsbury game, and I'm kind of like, is it chopping and changing them doing us any good? I'm not convinced at the moment. Emmanuel dropped out the squad altogether. I don't know if he had a knock possibly, but it just feels like we're just chopping and changing a little bit too much for my liking. But hey, ho, I'm not the manager, am I? So there you go. So yeah, they're the changes he made for this one. Once again, as I said, 5th game in a row, we took the lead, didn't we? And it was 5th game in a row. I think it was 5 away games. Oh, anyway, basically, once again we took the lead in a game and threw it away. What do you make of the opening goal? It kind of looks like Armstrong scuffed it a little bit, but actually scuffed it in a good way, as in to put it past the keeper.
Well, you've got to be in the right position to do that, haven't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think one positive over these 3 games is Armstrong's little run of form that he's on, because he's chipping them with goals and assists. But yeah, a goal's a goal. You know, I'll take one if it comes off someone's arse. To be honest.
Do you know what? WhoScored.com, obviously they do the stats based on individual statistics and things like that in games, right? Luke Armstrong was man of the match for this game, 8.5, better than comfortably better than any. Well, Russell was the nearest one for Barnsley on 8.3, 6.5. Mind you, only one other player for us got over 7, and that was Butterworth with 7.1. Obviously, they got the goal bumping up his stats a little bit there, I guess. But yeah, so the opening goal, long ball forward from Lewis. I think someone initially got a flick on it. Might have been Charters, I think, possibly, or someone else. If I know, it was Armstrong, wasn't it? It originally got towards the original flick on, and then Robinson flicks it down perfectly into his path. 3-1 goal. It's a very calm finish, isn't it? That, like you said, that's what we're really pleased to see, actually, because I think keeping him in good form for the last few games of the season could make a massive difference to us next season.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need to kind of be building around. And, you know, this for me now is, I've said it before, it's a pre-season, and we need to sort of be working on sort of moves and players getting familiar with the things that Armstrong does, because I think, he's going to be a massive player for us next season.
I mean, the biggest problem is Simmer has obviously made it clear there's going to be a big clear out in the summer, and that means it's hard to sort of work on these things because you don't know who else is going to be in there. You know, obviously Callum Gall will be coming back as well, which will help things, hopefully. I mean, it might take him a little while to get up to speed as well, that's the only problem. So it's a hard one to judge, isn't it? Obviously, that goal goes in, and then comes the equaliser from Barnsley. Sorry, I had the stats up a minute. Oh, here we are. Yeah, Williams. Well, all right, let's talk about this goal then. Initially, when we saw it on the iFollow, because we could watch this one because it was midweek, my thoughts were, bloody hell, it's a good hit, that. And then part of me was like, did it take a deflection though? Because it seemed to go a bit of a weird direction into the top corner. But then when you watch the replay back and you see the angle from behind the goal, as well as he's played recently, Harry Luce's got to save that, hasn't he? Yeah,
surely. It's weird. I don't think the ball was going as near the top corner as it was. I think Lewis kind of knocked it into the top corner.
Yeah. It made it look more like it was literally. I mean, he got a good wrist onto it, and I think he doesn't need anyone to tell him that. He knows he should be saving that. He knows that he's got to be getting a good hand onto that and not, letting it fly in so easily. It's just frustrating, isn't it? Because you get yourself into a good position, then someone hits one from that distance and it's right at your keeper. You think, save it.
Yeah, and that's a defender's job. A defender's job is to kind of limit them to them sorts of shots from outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Just really, really frustrating. And then into the second half, the goal that gave them the lead, the pass through to McAtee is a stunning pass, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look back at it, absolutely stunning. He gets through on goal, and is it his? I mean, he's been given the goal. Cosgrove played the ball for, I should say, really good pass from him. I think the lad on the line might have actually scored it, but I don't know. It's I think that's one of those goals. For once, I couldn't. It was hard to blame the defence because that's just really, really good football, and we're just not at that level, are we?
No, it's good pass, good finish. Yeah, like you say, I don't know who, if the man on the line got the final touch, but we made it easy for them at the end of the day. I think, so often I mean, I'm not sure who was marking Cosgrove. It might have been Mellish, but again, we're letting the man go goal side of the defender, and that's all they need.
Absolutely, and I think again there's a problem there. Look, we love Big John on this program. We really, really do on the show, but he hasn't really got any competition for that place, and that kind of does worry me a little bit. I'm not saying I don't think he gets complacent, but it's just we're having to play him every single game because we haven't got any other options to play that left-sided centre-back, really, have we?
It's weird. I think the best we've seen of Mellish this season is the left centre-back in a back four. And likewise, I think the best we've seen of Lavelle is the right centre-back in a back four. Now, we've only kept 2 clean sheets all season, and they were both in a back five. But, yeah I don't know. It's just it's hard to decide what the best way going forward is. When we beat Burton at home and we played that 4-2-3-1, I was like, oh, this is the way to go. And then we did that on the Saturday and
Cambridge
lost.
And was terrible. Yeah.
And so it's the story of our season, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know the way forward at all.
I kind of feel like Burton is just an aberration. Like they're just such a poor side. I don't really look a huge amount into that.
No.
Then came the third goal. For this one, it's a lovely clip ball to the far post, but for me, I'm struggling to work out who was actually meant to be picked. I've seen the view from behind the goal. It might be Huntington, but then Huntington seems to be telling someone else, pick him up, as if like someone else was meant to be picking him up. And then Huntington has to go with him. As it is, he gets away either way, completely unmarked. And I think I've seen a few people say Lewis should come and claim it. I think I'm 50-50 on that. I think it's a very, very good ball in, and it's kind of like I'm just watching it back now on YouTube just to remind myself. And as the ball comes in, it's kind of the defender's so close to it. I'm sorry, the attacker is so close to it. I'm not sure he'd be able to get to it. I think the attacker beats him to it either way. So yeah. It's a good move by them, but the defending's poor, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We did get back into the game late on. We had a chance maybe to possibly, get back to equalise. Because we got one back to make it 3-2. Lovely bit of play, Armstrong. This wasn't it?
Yeah, really good play. Really well weighted pass for Butterworth. And really good composure from Butterworth as well. I think it's quite easy as a striker if you've missed a couple of similar sorts of chances
against Barnsley
as well. It's quite easy to sort of get in your own head and panic a bit, especially when you almost have too much time on the ball.
Yeah.
But no, he was really cool, calm, and collected, and slotted it home.
Yeah, it was a lovely little thing. You know what? When he can get round like that and he can hit it, he's actually got quite a decent finish on him. It's kind of frustrating that he doesn't get into those areas as much. And yeah, it was a lovely little bit of play by him. There was a couple more chances after that, but we just couldn't quite get into it, could we? And I've got to say, like, Barnsley probably one of the more, like, in terms of all-round play, I think they're one of the most impressive sides I've seen this season, just because they were capable of playing the ball a bit, but they're also capable of going physical and going long, because they were massive, weren't they? If you look at them, I mean, Phillips in midfield, a quality midfielder, he's 6'3". He's like a giant. He's just ridiculous.
But that's happened a few times this season. Like when we were last in League One, it was nowhere. There was nowhere near as many kind of athletes, if you want to say. Like there was not so many like big lads in this league. There was quite a few short-arse central midfielders, but it seems now most midfielders are over 6 foot. You know, it's crazy, and yeah, I for one massively underestimated sort of how tough League One would be, and I think Simo maybe did as well.
Yeah, well, I think he said that, isn't it? I don't think he said he underestimated. I think he sort of like it wasn't quite as, well. Yeah, I suppose he's underestimating saying that, isn't he? But I think he sort of said like it was. I didn't realise just how big some of the teams were going to be and strong, and I'm sure they'll have watched teams, but when it comes to it this season, maybe it's just an aberration of a season, possibly even maybe there's a lot of big players there, but yeah. I don't have much else to say on this one, really, is there? To be honest, they're just a much better team than us, and just you move on, you accept that you've been well beaten. Right, we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the Shrewsbury game. Unfortunately,
hi, it's Tom Piatic II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, we're back, and I'm soldiering on with this cold that's clearly developing for me. Might not have something to do with the several pints of Guinness I had at Shrewsbury yesterday, but you never know. But yeah, let's talk about it then. Shrewsbury 1, Carlisle United 0. You were obviously there, Mike. You were working. I was there with Johnny, and there's not much to talk about the game because very little happened. We went down on the train from Chester. There was a few Tranmere fans, and I was just talking through them and said, "Oh, are you going to be playing us next season?" It's like, yeah. It's like, I think one of them said, like, "Oh, you're still in touch? Can you still potentially stay up?" I was like, "No." 16 points adrift with 8-9 games to go. We're done. But like, yeah. I mean, interestingly, they were saying, because I asked them, like, how's Christian Dennis getting on? I was like, and one of them said, "Oh, it's a fat waste of space." I was like, a bit harsh, wasn't it? But he said, "Well," he said, actually, to be fair, our old manager was like just a glorified PE teacher. He was playing him on the right wing, and I was like, "What?"
Really?
I was like, "Yeah, the right wing of a front three." I was like, "That's mental."
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, like somebody scored so many goals down the middle last season. Anyway, but yeah, we had a crack with them. But we actually met up with my mate Dale Skit, who's a Shrewsbury. I've known him for 20-25 years. Really good to catch up with him. But afterwards, he was in complete agreement with me. He's like, "That was two poor teams playing a really bad game of football, and we just scabbed it. We were just marginally better than you. There wasn't much to call between it." And that pretty much sums it up. And you look at it, though, they're 9 points clear of relegation now. They're probably going to stay up. And we're just... yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is it's easy to say, oh, well, next season we're going to be top end a League Two. But for me, I think top end of League Two teams need to be doing better against bottom of League One teams.
Yeah. Well, I think we know there's going to be a lot of big changes. I'd imagine there's going to be some players who are under contract next season who are probably going to have the contracts paid up, or at least they'll offer the chance to leave because they're not going to get games. So you will probably see a lot of that happening in the summer, whatever happens.
That's going to be pricey. You know, there's a lot of players who are out.
It depends.
Who are still under contract.
Yeah, I think that, to be fair, there's some biggish earners who are probably leaving this summer as well. You know, Whelan and Holy, you know, they're not going to be small wages, so that does free up a bit of space in that sense. We've got goalkeepers sorted out for next season, you'd imagine, so that's not an area we have to worry about. Maybe getting one on loan who's going to be third choice, or maybe even give the young lad who's in the youth team a 1 year deal. I don't know, but
I mean,
yeah,
there's some players for me though that I think, you know, as much as Lavelle has been getting stick, and rightly so in recent weeks, but I think he could be a useful player for us next season. You know, he was very good for Morecambe when they went up.
I was saying this, he'll be a good defender in League Two for us. He will. The decision then comes the following summer. You go like, right, what are we doing here? You might have to be brutal if we're going to be the club we want to be in the future. You might have to be brutal and say, let's say we go down. Let's say we come automatically up all through the playoffs, whatever, next season, summer. And Lavelle's had a pretty decent season for us in League Two. I think you probably have to be a little bit brutal and go, thanks, Sam, but we're moving on now. You know, the way we were with Dennis, and we probably shouldn't have been with Dennis. Actually, when you look back at it, we probably should have just tried to keep him, give him the 2 year deal, because I think he would have probably kicked him with a few goals this season. But you know, just what can you do? Yeah, so it just wasn't. It was not a good game of football at all. I mean, I'm looking at the match stats here. They had 16 shots and 6 on target, and we had 9 and 3. We had more possession than them. We got 10% more possession than them, but. Oh, in fact, 20% more possession than them, sorry. But yeah, the quality of the football was just awful, and the 16 shots doesn't reflect it, because a lot of that was long-range effort that went miles over the bar. So I would not read it much into that at all. I'm just looking at the lineups here. So in terms of our team, wing-backs changed again. Ellis and Armour back in. Butterworth in for Charters as well. And then Barkley came in for Huntington. So there's quite a few changes to the team. I was surprised that because Lavelle came off with like a knock towards the end of the game against Barnsley, didn't he? And I thought, maybe that'll actually give Simone an opportunity to give him a rest at the very least. But it was Huntington that was completely left out, wasn't he? So I'm guessing maybe he's blaming him for that goal.
Well, I think maybe it's the Saturday at Huntington's age is maybe just a bit too much.
Yeah, there's not really much point, is it, I guess, in that sense. When I look at the BBC website, it says the formation we played was 3-4-1-2. I'm not 100% certain. I felt it was trying to be more like a 3-4-2-1 with Diamond and Butterworth playing as number 10s just behind Armstrong. but I don't think either of them really knew where they were meant to be.
Yeah.
It was a very confused performance in that sense, and I think that didn't help. The ball just did not stick up front at all. And we were also hampered by the fact that both McGeoch and Neil got bookings fairly early on in the first half, and that really meant we couldn't get into the game in that sense. It's a tough one. And the frustrating thing about that is Harrison Neal's booking was for dissent. He gave away a foul and he argued with the ref and I'm just like, why are you doing that? You're a player who likes to tackle. It meant he couldn't really get his foot in. And actually, I've got to say, I've really liked Harrison Neal since he came in, but that was probably his poorest performance for us since he signed. And that's kind of... It's almost like he's getting dragged down a little bit now, isn't he?
Yeah. I think a few players are. And this is what I'm concerned about. I said before, I think Lavelle will be a decent player in League Two. I think Neil will be a very good player in League Two.
Yeah.
But I think as well, even players like I think Butterworth could maybe do a good job in League Two. But he's one that, like you say with Lavelle, I think you'd maybe have to be a bit brutal and say, if hopefully he gets us promoted, say, look, thanks, but we need to sort of go in a different direction. I don't know.
Possibly. And we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit with that, aren't we? But there you go.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but well, talk about not really much to talk about in terms of the game. I mean, we had a few chances. To be fair, we actually had 3 very good chances, but the opening goal for them, or the only goal for them, I should say. I've seen both Lewis get blamed for this and the defence. For me, I'd probably put 70-30 in the defenders' blame favour. So Udo gets the ball played into him just on the edge of the box, and he sort of holds onto it. At first, he's got 2 defenders on him. Then a third comes across, and then Lavelle just lets him get a step away from him, and he hits a low shot down. Lewis gets a hand to it. It's a very low shot, and it's hit very hard, but you could do a little bit better. What's your thought on it? You obviously weren't there, but you've seen the video back of it.
Yeah, I think for me, Lewis needs to be at his near post, and if he's at his near post, it's one of them really good saves that's actually easy because the ball's just kind of hit at him.
Yeah.
I think he made it hard for himself with that positioning.
He just left that little glimmer of a chance, and as a result, he had to go with his hand instead with his feet, didn't he? Which is quite frustrating, but there you go. I mean, they did have a chance before that. Lewis actually made a very good save, to be fair, where the ball was played through by a defender. I actually missed that. In fact, that came from a Harrison Neal mistake. I was in the I'd gone down to get I think a drink or something at that point, but there you go. And then our chances, we had a chance just before half time. Sam Lavelle, of all people, the ball was played back in from a shot. I think from I think it would have been. I'm trying to work out who it would have been possibly. Maybe Butterworth, I think, hit a low left foot shot. And it took a deflection. It fell straight to Lavelle, who was onside. The one play he didn't want it to fall to, though, wasn't it? Really, that situation.
Yeah, and even so, you've got to do better with a chance.
I think he took it. Was it on his left foot? I think rather than his right, wasn't it? I think he just hit it as quickly as he could. And in fact, no, maybe he hit it with his right and he should have gone with his left, but obviously because he's right footed, he was always going to go with his right. If that falls to Armstrong, that's probably a goal, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's the frustration in that sense. So that gave us a little bit of a lift before the start of the second half. Okay, you never know here. And actually, first 5-10 minutes of the second half, we had a bit of a go. I say a bit of a go. I'm being generous when I say that, but there was one good chance for Butterworth where he did actually really well to win the ball back off the defender, and then a lovely little bit of skill to get himself into a bit of space, and then he hit a shot across the keeper, and the keeper makes a good save, and it just sums up our luck, doesn't it, Mike? The fact that ball didn't fall to anyone. Yeah,
exactly. And I think when you're flying up the league, you do have that luck. I think players are kind of more willing to get forwards, but I think, I said before, it's the lack of confidence. I've never known a Carlisle team this lacking confidence, but at the same time, going back to it, some of Simo's comments, basically, it was someone on Twitter said this. I will find their name now because they deserve full credit. It was Matt Elliott on Twitter said that you've got a manager who knows he's untouchable in charge of a squad where the majority know that they're gone at the end of the season. And that's what it is. And all of Simo's comments saying they're not good enough. And I think they're starting to, they believe it. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right on that one. I almost think, Mike, that he needs a little bit of a reset with Simo on that, in the sense that he needs to say, look, I accept that, maybe at times I've been a bit negative for what I've said, whatever, blah, 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 and it's been tough. It's been a tough season. It's been a massive learning curve for this club as to what you need at League One level. And these last 6 games, I've said there's been a big change in the summer, but actually these last 6 games, there's a chance for those players to say to me, actually, you know what, I want to be part of this exciting journey this club's going to go on in the next few years. I want to see full-blooded performance. I want to see them going out there. And I want to see us go and spoil some people's promotion parties and things like that.
Yeah,
That's what I want to see us do. That's what we want to hear. It's very downbeat, and I can understand he's frustrated because he must think, oh, God, if that takeover had been done last summer, we'd probably be sitting lower mid-table. Maybe still not finding it easy, but we'd be in a much better position. And he must think, oh, God, if only we could have been in that position. But we aren't, and that's the reality of it, isn't it?
But, him sort of moaning about the quality of the squad, I understand that we didn't have the money and all this and that, but he still recruited them. And I think one of the most disappointing things for me this season is our loan signings. And I feel like loan signings, you are generally able to get a better quality of player. As in the wages sort of situation isn't as big of an issue as it is with permanent players.
Yes, but I think it's changed a lot at League One level from the last time we were here. I think the amount you're paying in wages and loan fees and things like that is a lot higher than it used to be, and I think that was probably still a challenge in the summer. Frustrating in that sense, I guess.
But I mean, you look at our loanees sort of individually, and I'm going to struggle here off the top of my head to even think who they are. So Jokel Anderson, flop.
Yeah.
Luke Plange, flop.
Helsinki's Luke Flange now. I love you now.
Well, yeah. Sean Green, flop.
Is Green a flop, or is he just not? It just hasn't been used, really. I think it's hard. I think it's harsh to say he's a flop because we haven't really been able to see him much.
If you can't get a game in this defence,
well, no, but I think he was always brought in as cover, wasn't he? Really, he was never brought in. So I think I'd say N/A for him, not applicable because you can't really judge him with him for me. But that's personal opinion. But there you go.
Well, Diamond, I would argue, has been all right.
Hit and miss, but again, put into a very difficult situation. To be fair,
yeah, and I think his lack of football has shown, and it's clear. I think he's getting fitter game by game, and he's getting a bit braver. And I'd love to see him next season in League Two. Especially with a full pre-season behind him as well.
Yeah.
But who else have we had on loan? I genuinely can't even. JJ Coyote and Lado from Fulham. Ablade.
Ablade has some bright moments, but you'd argue a flop just because of the injuries, and Coyote a big flop because of the injuries. Such big expectation, and then Finn Back's the only one, and again Finn Back probably with the injuries, and it's a weird one. He was asked about this, wasn't he? Sam? I didn't see what he actually said, but he was asked about why Finn Back hasn't been involved much lately, but. It just seems very strange that we're sticking with Coyote, with Ellis and Emmanuel. I wonder if that's almost looking towards next season and thinking, well, at least one of them's going to be involved heavily, probably. So
yeah, possibly. Although Finn Back's out of contract in the summer, and I know he's had his injuries, but I wouldn't argue against us trying to bring it up.
Do you think he'll want to come now, considering how much he's been left out at times this season? And I'm not convinced he'd want to come.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, if Simo had played him when he's fit and available, he would maybe be more willing to come.
No, it's a fair point. Are there any other loanees? I can't even think we've had any others.
I think that's about it.
Got any others at the moment? No, we haven't, have we? Diamond's the only one, I think. So yeah, you're right. Loanee-wise, it's just not been a good season. Especially when you compare it to last season. It's just not the same, is it? Barkley did pretty well. Obviously, Back was excellent when he was fit. Things like that. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. J.K. Gordon even, did pretty well. So yeah, frustrating, but there you go. In terms of the rest of the game, Shrewsbury had a couple of chances. Lewis did make a pretty decent save with one of them on a 1-on-1. And then Lavelle again had another good chance. A decent ball in from Gibson, brought on as a sub. The first probably decent ball played into the box all game. And Lavelle gets headed straight at the keeper. As soon as he got to the head, I was like, he's going to put this straight at the keeper. And I could just tell. There was no way it was going either side of him. He got too much. He needed to glance it, but he got powered on it and straight towards the keeper. So But we didn't deserve anything from it. I don't think Shrewsbury just about deserved the win. I think they were the better side, but there was not much to pick between the two teams, and we come away with 0 points out of a possible 9 for the last 3 games. Yeah, big question about where we go from here. You've mentioned Simo's comments. I think we still have to keep going back to it, don't we? Look, I'm not in the Simo out camp in no way, shape, or form, but he is testing my patience a little bit on a few things, and I think. The post-match comments and stuff, the negativity. I know we're in a shit position. We all know that. We're not stupid. But him affirming that all the time, you're just going to get people turning around going, well, hang on. You've been in charge for all season. You're the one who You said the recruitment wasn't good last summer. Well, you recruited them. Is the first thing people say. I know we didn't have the budget, but you did recruit them. And... yeah, it kind of feels at the moment like there's an acceptance we're going down, and that's what's causing such dreadful form.
Yeah, and as well with the recruitment, I mean, sometimes you can just be a little bit patient. Like we recruited relatively early in the window. We weren't sort of scrapping around too late in the window. But sometimes you can be a little bit patient, and there's players who maybe wouldn't want to talk to you at the start of the window, would maybe be interested at the end. And some people say, oh, well, they're not the players you want. You want players who just want to sign for us, but it doesn't really work like that, They are mercenaries at the end of the day.
Bringing the lownees back as well hasn't really worked out as well as we'd hoped, has it, really? I mean, Barkley's struggled a bit. He's been in and out with injuries again, and Robinson's always a long-term thing, wasn't it, really? And, there was an expectation that, to be fair, Armour would play most games, wouldn't he? But as it is, it hasn't quite
But again, I mean, like... it's some of the 2-year deals as well for me. He offers a 2-year deal to McGeoch and then doesn't fancy him for a lot of the season. Yeah. And as it happens, I think McGeoch does look decent. A 2-year deal for McCalman, who I don't think is up to it. It's just weird. I think Dave would be spinning in his grave if he was dead.
Why do you mention his name? I've got to make a note now to put the clown car noise in. Like, I haven't had to do that in so long. Thanks very much for that.
But in all seriousness, we bemoan the recruitment policy under him. Well, the recruitment policy's been awful this summer without him.
I feel like at the moment there needs to be an acceptance. This season has been terrible. It has. Even excuses aside of the lack of budget and the takeover and stuff.
But you say this season, it's a hangover from the back end of last season as well. Really, when you think about it.
Yeah, thing is though, we still played quite well in some of those games at the end of last season. You look at the playoff games. Even towards the end of the season, there was a few decent performances in there. It's kind of like there was still glimmers of like, okay, we've had some bad results, but even in some of the bad results, we actually played fairly well in a lot of those games. Even when we got beat 3-2 by Salford, we actually played fairly well in that match and stuff like that. So, whereas now, a lot of the games we're not even playing well. There's not even like any glimmers of hope there. And there needs to be an acceptance, right? This season's been terrible. It's been awful. Not good enough. Even excuses aside, not good enough. Let's stop with the negativity. Let's stop with it. Let's go, right, you know what? We're probably going down now. We accept that. It's going to take an absolute miracle for us to stay up. What we want to do now, as I want to see I genuinely want to see a bit of pride. I want to see a bit of fight in there. I want to see us get a couple of red cards in games because we're getting stuck in. That sounds a terrible thing to say, but I do. There's been some games recently where we haven't got a single booking. Get stuck in. Put a few tackles in, if you have to. Take men down. Look like you're really fighting to get results. And say to them, like, I want someone to be saying, like, I want these players to be going out there and fighting to stay at this club next season. I want them to say, actually, I can see what's happening off the pitch here. This is an exciting club, and this club in the next few years is going to be the place to be. I want to still be here. I want to show that I'm capable of doing that, because at the moment, not enough of them are doing that, are they?
No, exactly. And, whether or not these players want to stay at the club, they're playing for their futures at the end of the day. I think, we saw with Sonny Hilton, he was at a Premier League 2 club last season. He's now playing for Bootle.
Yeah.
Your career can just go by in a flash. And
life comes at you very fast. It really, really does, doesn't it? And you have to rebuild your career. I mean, Brad Young's having to rebuild his career in the Welsh leagues, and he's doing well. But he probably would have been thinking, I'm not far off the Villa team here. When he came on loan to us, and look where he ended up. And yeah, I 100% agree. I think some of them need to be very careful, and because other teams will be watching, going, he doesn't really look for the fight, does he? Yeah. And like I said, I'm not just putting the blame on them. As I've said before on the pod today, I think Simo's comments are not helping. I think he really needs to have a rethink about how he handles that sort of stuff. And there's just a few times recently he said stuff, and I'm kind of like, okay, that's a man under pressure. And we were saying just before we recorded, weren't we, Mike, that we're not enjoying this. It actually makes it worse. Look, I found it easier under Millen because I didn't really give a toss about Keith Millen. Towards the end, I was kind of like, I just want him out. It's awful. Whereas with Simo at the moment, it almost sometimes feels like a bit of a slow death, and I really hope it isn't. And we want him to stay, we want him to succeed, but the way it's happening, it's not a nice way for it to happen. And some of the things that it's been said about him are actually, to be fair, a bit disgraceful from some of our fans recently. Like genuinely out of order for a man who's done so much for this club.
Yeah, I mean, I'm veering now. I think if Monday morning there's a statement with the corner flag from the club and it says Paul Simpson has resigned or moved upstairs or whatever, I wouldn't be as gutted as maybe I would have been a while ago.
I'd still be gutted, and I'd kind of accept it. And this is not us calling for it, by the way. We should make it very clear. We're just saying if that happened. I think there needs to be something come out. I think there almost needs. I don't want the dreaded vote of confidence because that just all the pressure creates. But it maybe needs Big Tom to come out and just say, look, we accept this season's not been good enough. We accept that there's been mistakes made by everybody here, but we're going to build something really, really big next season. We are going to be an exciting team. We're going to back Paul to do it, and Paul's really positive about what's coming in. I want to hear some positivity. I want to hear we're just not quite good enough. We're not as good as them. Yeah, we know that. We've got eyes. We can see that. What I want to hear is I want to see a bit of fight from them. I want to see them really fighting for the team.
I think the thing is Simo has almost let the fact that he's kind of untouchable go to his head a little bit.
I'm not sure. I think maybe to an extent, yes, but I think he just feels so frustrated, and I think he just knows it's a missed opportunity, and I think he deep down knows that actually, this is really proving a hard rut to get out of, and of all the jobs, this is the one he wants to succeed in the most, isn't it? We know that. It's just...
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like, last season was incredible, and indeed the season before that, he had no right keeping us up that season because we were down and we were dead and buried.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you go back even further. You go back the last time he was in charge, that season in League Two. We just come up from the conference, and you asked most Carlisle fans before that season, and we would have been happy to finish mid-table. Yeah. And we absolutely walked the league that season. Yeah. Incredible. But I think if he was the manager that we like to sort of portray him as and see him as, I think he maybe would have done better at Preston. He maybe would have done better at Shrewsbury.
To be fair, Preston, he had the rug pulled under him there. They should have invested in January and they didn't. And as a result, because they were top of the championship, weren't they, in that January? And then they didn't invest, and as a result, they really struggled. And I think at Shrewsbury again, he got a lot of investment there, and they missed out on the playoffs, and then it all went downhill from there. So, yeah, I think he's done better in some of the other jobs than you'd think. I think, but yeah, you're right. To be fair, there's an element of that. Let's just hope. I just want to hear when the pre-match press conference comes around for Stevenage. I want to hear him say I think almost Stevenage is almost the perfect game for it because they've got we'll talk, obviously be previewing it later in the week, but they've got who in charge, haven't they? And it riles us up. He riles us up every time. You might get a proper atmosphere that's lifted. I want to see the players flying in on their players. Sounds terrible, but I want to see us getting stuck in and thinking, you know what? It's annoying the fact that you're up in the playoffs or near the playoffs and we're struggling down the bottom. Well, I'll tell you what, you're not going to go up. We're going to ruin it for you. I want to see that. And this is not this petty Carl Stevenage rivalry that some people think there is. I just want to see that happen for us. I want to see performances.
Yeah, but what concerns me is what is the crowd going to be? Because
it's the offer, isn't it?
I know we've got the offer, but I think it's going to be hard to weekend,
isn't it?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
It's going to be difficult.
I kind of feel like we need to hear something a bit from, like I said, from Tom Senior, almost. And I'm not talking about a dreaded vote of confidence, just to get a state, almost to the a message to the fans. We appreciate this season's not been good enough, but there's a lot of exciting stuff coming, something like that, But that's just my idea anyway. Let's talk about some of the individuals from the last few games. I mean, start with the one we sort of touched on a little bit earlier, Sam Lavelle. Simo's come out and defended him recently, hasn't he? And said, look, I have no doubt I would pick him for the next games. And again, that's a player who knows he's not going to be dropped. That's a little bit worrying. And obviously, managers always have the favourites. They always have the leaders and the people they think they can trust. The problem is, Simo says, because I think he sort of hinted, hasn't he, that some players haven't been the way they've behaved, or the way they've trained or something. It hasn't been good enough this season. Their attitude to the game's not good enough. Clearly, he's hinting that Lavelle is very much not one of those players and is very much a leader and leads by example, the way he trains, everything like that. And that's fantastic. But he's not playing well enough on the pitch.
No.
And it gets to a point where you're destroying his confidence by keeping on picking him.
Yeah, I feel like he's on a run of form now, like Thomas Holy was, when he came back into the team after being dropped, and he's making mistakes every single game that is costing us. And I think the more he plays, the more mistakes he makes, and the more his confidence goes.
And some fans start turning against him. As we said, that game at Shrewsbury, there was quite a few bit of gallows humour going on the stand, and some of the fans were turning on each other, saying, what are you doing? That's not going to do them any good. And you kind of get the gallows humour, at the same time, it's probably not helping. It's a really tough situation that we're in right now in terms of that stuff. For me, it's a difficult one because we haven't really got any options. But presuming Huntington's fit, like I said, well, obviously we'll do the preview later in the week, but I'd drop Lavelle, give him a rest.
Yeah,
play Barkley, Huntington, Mellish. It was the defenders that played last season, and I know it's a different league, whatever, but let's see how they do. Maybe
or even Jack Ellis in that right centre back role.
Possibly, yeah. For me, Green, we're saying Green. Might as well use him. For me, Barkley's not been particularly great either. To be fair, he didn't have a good game at the weekend. He gave the ball away a lot. He didn't look comfortable at all. Are we doing Jack Ellis's confidence any good keeping on playing him? I don't know. He's okay as a one-on-one defender. Going forward, his passing's still not great. He needs to really work on that a bit more. And he's got a bit of dribbling ability, to be fair on him. He's decent enough at that. For me, the real positive you can take out of the last few games is Armstrong. And even against Shrewsbury, he worked his backside off and he didn't get any reward for it at all. Yeah. I really felt for him. He didn't get any support from either Butterworth or Diamond realistically up there. But I think there's a real positive there. I think there was some doubts about whether we wasted a bit of money on him, but actually the last few games I think people are like, okay, yeah, he's a good player and he will be a good player next season, hopefully. But yeah, it's hard to really pick many more positives out, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's annoying because we were talking just before we recorded, weren't we, about sort of other games that we're going to, and saying I'm obviously off for Peterborough, and because we were looking at getting the train down, but it's like £50 each for the train
from Liverpool as well.
Ridiculous. Which is ridiculous. But at the same time, to be honest, having a couple of pints and a day out is what has been making this season tolerable.
Well. We were talking about that, we were saying, weren't we? I'm heading towards being on the fence about going to Peterborough. I've never been to Peterborough, so it'll be one to tick off for me. And I've done all of League One when I go there. But it's part of me's do I really want to go there and watch us get battered? And we'll get battered at the moment because Peterborough, we saw the home game, they were incredible. And we're not playing at the same level we were back then when we got a draw and we really battled for it. For me as well, I know Simo's clearly got an issue there, but I'd get Jordan Gibson back into the team because I think just when he's on the pitch, he actually creates stuff. He puts balls into the box, and we're not getting. I can't remember a single ball really put into the box against Shrewsbury until he came on and he started. He clipped a couple of balls in. I want to see that again. I really, really do. I'd be tempted to go 4-3-3 almost, to be honest, and just go with that back four as you suggested, and go your wingers of Gibson and Diamond alongside Armstrong, and just pack a midfield like McGeoch, Neil and Charles, whatever. Just go with that. That's your best team, I think, to be honest. But I don't know. But I think we've probably talked enough about that now. I think we're just depressing ourselves. And let's hope the Stevenage game goes well. Before we finish, let's do one little bit of ex-Blues news, shall we, Mike?
Yeah.
Because we'll cover all the rest of it in the preview episode at the end of the week. But yeah, Jared Branthwaite, England squad member. Fantastic news, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. I was genuinely scared that Southgate wouldn't pick him, but no, he's totally earned it. And to be honest, like I'm genuinely tempted to, like, if England sort of progress, to watching England games in the fan zone at Brunton Park. Like, I think being surrounded by fellow Cumbrians, watching him like represent England, I think would just be class. And
oh yeah, brilliant.
And I was saying this to you. I think some people have a bit of a bias with former players sometimes. And when he played for us, to be honest, I didn't see him going as far as he has. In that, when we had Kyle Dempsey, I thought Kyle Dempsey was top draw. I thought he was brilliant. And he's been playing most of his career in League One. And don't get me wrong, I thought Branthwaite is very good for us. But I think, to go to that level takes some doing, and fair play to him. To
be honest, I thought, as a centre-back, playing as well as he did at that age, I thought 100% top flight player. 100% he was going to play at top flight. The more I saw him, then when I saw him playing for Everton those first 2 games, I was like, yeah, he's going to play for England. And to be fair, Stephen Presley said he'll play for England one day, didn't he? The man gets mocked for many things, but he's the one who gave him, wanted to give him a long deal. He's the one who said, he'll play for England, and he was bang right with that. He could spot a player, Presley. Yeah, just not particularly good at coaching him. That's the problem. But no, in all seriousness, fantastic to see him do so well. Obviously, we'll earn a bit of money from it if he plays, which is great. He'll also bump up his value for the summer when he probably inevitably gets sold by Everton to keep them financially stable. But playing against Brazil on Saturday night and playing well, it might be the difference between a £70 million move to Man United and a £100 million move to Real Madrid.
Yeah, well,
insane.
This is the thing. A good Euros could easily increase his transfer valuation by 30, 40, 50 million.
He could genuinely be a 9-figure player. Like if he does well in these friendlies and then plays in the Euros and plays well. Yeah, genuinely could be, because he's like I said, he's got everything. He's left-footed. In fact, he's 2-footed. Really, he can play short-range passing. He's got good long-range passing. Big, strong lad. Fairly pacey, reads the game well. Corners. But yeah, plays along the back four. I mean, just come on. He's got everything. But and he started over us.
Yeah, well, I half think, looking at the rest of the squad, there's a chance that Southgate might want to play him at left back as well.
Yeah, I think he's gonna play Gomez there because Gomez has played there for Liverpool recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, most likely. Maybe. Yeah, but no. I mean, hopefully he plays centre back. I mean, Southgate has played 3 at the back a few times for England. Maybe on the left of that, it'd be pretty good.
I think Branthwaite has played left back for Everton a couple of times. I think not many, but I think a couple of times definitely. But there you go. But no, fantastic news. Well done, Jared. Obviously, James Trafford also is in the England under-21, so well done to him too. It's just nice to see all these former players doing well, isn't it? It's certainly does a lot of good. But there you go. That's it, Mike. I think we've talked long enough. It's been painful. We've covered 3 games. We're going to be positive rest of the season. Let's try and be positive. Let's hope. I want to hear a real positive interview with Simo at the weekend, and I want to. You know what? I want to hear our fans really getting at Stevenage at the weekend. I want the atmosphere to be raucous, and I want us to look. They've got Carl Pierre Gianni's out. They've got Reed's out for this game. They've got a few players out. You never know. We could spoil it. I saw it all kicked off after their game against Leyton Orient as well at the weekend. So that's we'll have to wait and see with that one. Right, Mike. Thanks very much for joining me.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I really appreciate your patience in terms of waiting for this one to come out. It was unavoidable. None of us were available to record towards the end of the week, so we had to wait until now. But we'll be back end of the coming week, basically, to look ahead to the Stevenage game. And like I said, we'll do listener questions. I'll put something out on Monday or Tuesday and ask you to send some in, and we'll debate them on that episode. But yeah, all that's left to say is thanks, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
On the board.